Welcome everyone today. We're going to have a discussion. It's talking about Canadian and European. So we're looking at the collaboration between Canada and Europe, and it's a discussion on clean tech opportunities. Don't need to tell everyone here, and maybe it's news to some, maybe it's not, but the time is now. This year, or last year, I guess it was in 2021, there was an all-time high of 48.8 degrees Celsius in Linton, BC. And if you ask the world experts on climate change, climatologists, meteorologists, they were all shocked because that much of a dramatic jump at that latitude was not expected. It was not expected that we would see that high an increase in temperature, the heat waves, the deaths that resulted from it. It was all up the west coast of North America, but it was a record high. It was 5 degrees Celsius higher than anything that had previously happened before. So that was a shock. Along with this year as well, there was a high of the same temperature in Syracuse, Italy, which is the highest temperature ever recorded, beating the previous high of 48 degrees Celsius that was in Athens. And that temperature is still to be verified by the World Climate Organization because they've got so many this year that they're verifying. They just verified a new high in the Arctic. So climate change is widespread, rapid, and intensifying. But there is an opportunity, right? There's an opportunity to make a difference, and there's an opportunity to change this. This is a people-made problem, and so we can solve it as people. So the global market for clean tech is expected to exceed $2.5 trillion this year. And Canada is ranked second in the world in the Global Clean Tech 100 Index. So even though we're a nation of about 36, 37 million people, we punch it higher than our weight. You know, we produce a lot of great clean tech companies, outranking a lot of different nations. And Europe combined has 32 companies on that Global Clean Tech 100 Index. So it's a massive opportunity. For Canada, the big part for us is, being a small country, as we develop this technology, we'll be looking to export this technology. So we'll be looking for alliances throughout Europe and other parts of the world with this technology, and we expect it to be a $20 billion export industry for Canada by 2025. And Europe's got some amazing ambitions for itself, looking to become the first climate neutral continent by 2050. So a little bit about BlackTech Capital. BlackTech Capital is a pre-seed fund in Toronto that invests in Black entrepreneurs focused on clean tech. So by focusing on Black entrepreneurs and clean tech, we're at that impact of intersection of social responsibility and environmental initiatives. So looking to support Black entrepreneurs like myself, but looking to bring forward environmental initiatives and focus on clean technologies. And then we're co-hosting it today with the Go-Up Business E-Incubator. And my co-host, Dorina, if you want to say a little bit about that right now before we have Rosen speak on that in detail.
Surely, thank you very much, Brian. Good morning, good afternoon to everybody. Welcome to the second part of the Canadian European discussion on clean tech opportunities. Definitely, we are excited to have you join us online. My name is Darina Zemova. I'm an associate professor at Rutgers University, but also board president of the Go-Up Business Incubator. We established Go-Up thanks to the support and the collaboration of the European Commission Meta Group and Improve. Dr. Rosen Dimov, my colleague, will present you in a while in detail our history, our partners, and main activities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dorina. So, as I said, the co-host, there's myself. I'm the managing partner for BlackTech Capital, being an entrepreneur with 4 different companies I've started over the years, but most importantly, in the last 10 years, I've been focused on the clean tech sustainability sector with an expertise in the energy industry, which I've been in for over 30 years. Do a lot of mentoring of different founders, startups, whether with Founder Institute, Techstars, University of Toronto's Black Founders Network, Earth Tech Accelerator through the Center for Social Innovation here in Toronto, or Ryerson University. So got a lot of expertise in working with startups. As Dorina mentioned, she's president of the board of Go-Up E-Incubator. I don't know if you want to say more about yourself, Dorina, or before we start introducing our speakers.
Yeah, I have this academic background, but also administrative one. Did a lot of specialization across Europe and also Central Asia. Uh, Pretty much interested in bioeconomy, circular economy. Therefore, we are looking to definitely forward our discussions today.
Thanks, Darina. So this morning, we just went through the introductions. Our speakers are going to be Rosen Dimov, who's an EU projects manager and also in the Go Up Business Incubator. Micah Altus, she is the executive director of Canada CleanTech Alliance, as well as the executive director of the Ontario CleanTech Industry Alliance. Vitaly Petrosyan, he's the CEO and founder of Langley OU. Alia D is startup program manager with Microsoft Estonia, talking about some of the things that Microsoft has done to support startups. And Lynn Cote, and Lynn, I apologize, I couldn't get my computer to do the proper accents on your name. So I'll make sure I work on that for next time, but she's the CleanTech lead for the CleanTech team at Export Development Canada, where I mentioned that exporting our technology is going to be a big part of what we do, and she'll be speaking to that. And then we're going to showcase a couple of companies, Ready Inc., which is looking to transform how we deliver electricity to rural areas that do not have, or not rural, even areas, larger city areas that do not have reliable grid electricity across the country, through the country or in the region. And Lorcan Technologies, who speak into really transforming how we retrieve data, how we're able to retrieve data from remote regions, key in the oil, gas, mining sectors, forestry sectors, for be able to do that environmental monitoring. And it just gives an example of companies that BlackTech Capital is supporting that are making a difference in the clean tech. And then at the end, after each speaker, there'll be a chance for a little bit of questions, but at the end, we can have a panel discussion and open up to the audience, any questions the audience may have at that point. Okay, I am going to turn it over to Rosen as our first speaker. He is the EU's project manager, and as mentioned, speaking on Go Up. So Rosen, I will get your presentation up here in a second.
Great. Thanks, Brian and Darina. Great to see everyone here today. Let me just say a few words about the incubator that we've created with some of you that are here in this call, including Darina, Vitaly, and maybe there are a few more that I don't see, but it's a big effort that we've been working on for some time. And it's also result of the partnership with the European Commission and their service providers, the Meta Group, the Improve Key partnership under the Horizon Results Booster program. So maybe we could move to the next one, please. You could see that we have a combination of 7 partners from different countries around Europe, and these partners are very different. We have universities, technological parks, we have private companies, big and small. We have civil society, organizations, foundations, associations as well. All of us gathering with the same purpose to support the promotion of entrepreneurship in fields related to clean tech. Maybe the next one, please. And if we speak about our general objectives, they're really far-reaching, and you could see that we are very ambitious in transforming the whole agri-food value chain, making sure that clean tech is all over in the lives of people, making sure that young people get engaged in it from an early age, and also people throughout their whole life, they get involved in different activities related to it. We are also trying to support the ecosystem with capacity enhancement, job employment creation, the cross-sectorial linkage creation, the venture building. These are all specific objectives that we are trying to track against very strict KPIs that we've set for the incubator. Maybe the next one. And you could see that in order to achieve these goals, we have very clear instruments how to do this, which cover the whole spectrum of services and support measures that could be provided not only to entrepreneurs, but also to investors. And we've organized our work in 3 permanent committees that are dedicated to the 3 different fields in which we are working. And one of it in which I'm involved as well is the community, in which we have the ecosystem players, we have the services, and we have the projects. And these all include members of the incubator, the different organizations from the 7 countries that are working online and on the spot to make sure that each of these permanent committees delivers to the mission of the organization. And in each of these fields, we could see that we are covering a lot of aspects. Firstly, we want to make sure that we have a robust pipeline of startup deals that are related to a wide range of areas in CleanTech. So even if startups are not there yet, they could still join, they could become members of the community, they could participate in a lot of the training programs, networking sessions, and eventually be ready to join a semester program, which is the incubator residency. They would then be direct into the startups or scale-ups specific semester. They would apply to continue in their life cycle and be supported with the deal flow with investors such as the BlackTech Capital and hopefully many more like you that are interested to support clean tech technology. And we have also the community membership for these business angels, for the investors, for the VCs that are going to be part of the whole thing that we're building. And this is all categorized into the bronze membership, silver membership, golden membership, and exclusive membership, each of these tiers having their own specific benefits. Maybe the next one. You could see that we are currently recruiting for our next semester, which is starting in the beginning of March. And we have an application form open on our website. This is still open for European startups, for Canadian startups that wish to expand globally. And the focus is, of course, any field related to the agri-food industry and the broader clean tech. And we have weekly programs in which there is interaction with experts, with other startups, peer-to-peer support checkups, finishing up with a demo day where the investors would participate. And afterwards, the program participants will have access to alumni benefits and services. I'm happy to take your questions. Thank you for your time.
Thanks very much, Rosen. Is there any questions anyone may have for Rosen at this time? Okay, I don't have any questions. I don't see anything in the chat. So I'd like to turn it over next to Micah Altus. Micah is the Executive Director for Canada CleanTech. And Micah, I'll turn it over to you. And I think you have the ability to share any slides you may have and take it from there. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Brian, for having me. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon. Okay, let me just share my screen and give you a little bit of an overview of Canada CleanTech Alliance and the Canadian CleanTech ecosystem. Oops. Slide mode would be great. Yes, I hope you can see my screen now properly. Thumbs up, okay. So yeah, as Brian pointed out, I have a double role. I'm the Executive Director of Canada CleanTech Alliance and the Ontario Clean Technology industry association. The difference is Canada CleanTech Alliance is a coalition of industry associations and accelerators across Canada, whereas the Ontario Clean Technology Industry Association, short OCTIA, is a classic industry association with corporate members mainly. The Canada CleanTech Board, we have representation from west to east. The chair is Denis Leclerc, who's the president and CEO of Ecotech Quebec. We have Heather Campbell for Alberta Innovates on board, Stuart Algie for the Smart Prosperity Institute, which is an Ottawa-based think tank. We have done a lot of research and work on tax incentives for clean technologies with Smart Prosperity. Smart Prosperity has done the research. We've been advocating for it. Next, there is Peter MacArthur, who is the treasurer and chair of OCTIA. Then there's Antona Fung, who is the CEO of Innovation Growth, and Jason Switzer, who is the secretary and is on the board for Foresight out of BC. Just to give you an overview of the different organizations that form the Canada CleanTech ecosystem. So it's fairly colorful and well distributed. I'd like to talk a little bit about the challenges of the clean tech sector here in Canada. So the biggest thing is access to capital. So most companies compared to our neighbors to south of the border in the US are undercapitalized. Access to customers is an issue for many, and access to markets. And maybe to give you a few numbers, and these numbers come from EDC's Lynn Cote's team from the Clean Technology Report 2021 that was published in the fall. The numbers summarize clean technology and environmental goods and services. So it's not just pure clean technology, and we define clean technology as any service and product that reduces environmental impact. So GDP contribution in 2019 was 70.5 billion. We're talking about roughly 341,000 jobs in Canada. Now, the strongest provinces in terms of clean tech are Ontario, leading the charge in Canada. Then Quebec is fairly strong. Quebec, then BC, and Alberta follows next. And as Brian pointed out, we're in a world comparison. We're punching above our weight. The CleanTech 100 list was for 2022 was recently published, and there are 13 Canadian companies on that list, which of course we are very proud of. So that's really it at a glance, and happy to take any questions you may have. Oops. Okay, Brian, I can't hear you.
That was great for giving us that overview of sort of what's there in the Canadian landscape, showing where you've got participation from coast to coast with a strong concentration in Ontario, different clean tech opportunities and depending on the different sectors, with the coast focusing on things that are more on the sort of on the water side. You've got a lot of more, let's say, different kinds of development out of Ontario and stuff out of Alberta. There's a focus more on the oil and gas sectors. Maybe a question first for you, Micah. Where do you see as maybe one of the biggest sectors that Canada is leading in developing clean technology?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I think it does really depend on which province you are looking at. So If you look at Ontario, I would say anything EV supply chain related, building technology. What else comes to mind? Water tech. Then yeah, CCUS, I think there's a big opportunity. Yeah, oh, and anything circular economy solution related. So generally, if I look at Octia's membership, it is surprisingly broad. So we have very broad representation. But I think building technology, EV supply chain, CCUS, without having the numbers readily here to support this is anecdotally probably the core sectors.
Awesome, thanks for that. And where would you say, what are you seeing in terms of investment into clean tech companies? How's that been? Where's the support? I guess, firstly, from the private sector, and then secondly, from the government sector. How do you see that support for clean tech in Canada?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, so as I pointed out, still in comparison to the US, the envelopes are smaller, but there are support mechanisms, and especially government agencies such as EDC, BDC, and granting agencies are playing a major role specifically for early stage companies. I think there's also a lot of effort being done at the moment on the government side to accelerate public procurement of clean technologies to get these pilot projects out. And so these are all very encouraging developments. The clean tech sector, I think, is happy about. And yeah, there is also more and more investment companies specializing in clean technologies.
Great, thank you. Go ahead, Rosen. I see you have a question.
Yeah, thanks. I was wondering about this slide that Mikey presented with the provincial contribution. So I see here similarity with the situation that we have in Europe, where the periphery or new European Union members have lower contribution of clean tech products to the economy. So I was wondering what the reasons for this are, like territories with 0%, Prince Edward 0, Nova Scotia 1, New Brunswick 1, and so on. And then you have those like Ontario, where I guess Brian and some of the people today are based, and they have super high, not high enough though, I would say, but still like very much higher compared to those with 0, 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, you also have to see though that Ontario is densely populated compared to other provinces, and it is for I'm taking Ontario, but same holds true for Quebec, or denser, more densely populated, and the industrial hub. So that probably plays a big role in that in terms of size and population density.
Thanks, Mike. And do you have there's a question here in the chat from Alex. What's the participation on a per capita basis? Do you have any sense of that? Mm-hmm.
Yes, the specific is like Quebec punching above their weight. I think they were, what, 22% or something like that? And I don't know if that's their share of the per capita.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't have that ready. I would have to look that up, and yeah.
Maybe Mike, I can, it's Lynn, I can take that question. If you look at the distribution of where the when our economics team did our report, which I can I'll send a link to in the chat in a few minutes. Yeah, I mean, Quebec is doing very well. I mean, to the question before, I was sort of chuckling to myself. I was going to say to Rosen, have you been to Canada? So it's kind of like, there's not a lot of people who, Prince Edward Island's pretty small, not a lot of people there. So, so the distribution of clean tech companies represents the distribution of Canada in some ways. So it should be no surprise that the Greater Toronto area would be leading, by sheer the density of population, the number of universities, and then followed by the Greater Montreal area, and then followed by the Greater Vancouver area. And I would say that sort of the question, if it was specifically for Quebec, is representative. Probably the one that may not be representative is BC. The population is getting quite big there, and certainly when we look at our data of our customers and who we serve, it's a little bit underrepresented, but they have a very, very active clean tech sector with a lot of earlier stage companies. And what they don't have necessarily right now out west, and it kind of skews the numbers, is that the majority of the large IPP, so the independent power producers, the companies who are going out and creating these big, projects, 100, 200, 300 million renewable power projects, are mostly based in Ontario, and there's a few of them in Quebec. So it distorts the values when you look at the numbers. And the West doesn't have those big companies that are doing these big projects. Now that could change with CCUS. If the CCUS is considered a clean tech project, those will be very, very big projects. So it may start to skew the numbers. So when you look at numbers, the numbers, by the way, the data in Canada is very challenging. So when you look at it, there's the number of companies where they're situated, but there's also the volume of business. And again, because these large projects can sort of eat up all the SME, the amazing stuff that the SMEs are doing. So you have to sort of take it with a grain of salt.
Great. Thank you very much for that answer, Lynn. I mean, that really gave a good picture and a good framework for how it is there. Again, thank you very much, Micah, for the presentation. There will be opportunities to ask Micah and the other speakers more questions towards the end. And I'd like to turn it over to Darina to introduce our next speaker.
Yes, thank you very much, Brian. I hope you can now hear me clearly because I had some problems with the sound. Thank you, Mike. It was really interesting presentation. Now let me welcome Vitaly Petrosyan. He is the CEO, a founder of Langley, and also he is a co-founder of the Go Up Business Incubator. So the floor is yours. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. Actually, I do not have any slides, but I will just briefly introduce myself. What am I doing here? So actually, Langley is an edtech startup, a Estonian-based edtech startup. But here I'm probably mostly in the position of board member of Moldova Startup Foundation. It's a foundation with about 2 million euros. And we are supporting the growing startup community in Moldova and as an angel investor. The CleanTech is also one of my areas of interest, and I'm really excited to be here and to discuss the opportunity of the CleanTech, especially in Canada. Just a briefly introduction about my journey and what we are doing. I'm a serial entrepreneur. About seven successful products launched already on the Apple App Store and Google Play Market. And regarding my connection with the clean technologies, we are saving about 700 tons of paper yearly with one of our products by digitalizing the documents and translating them online. Actually, that's a small part of our CleanTech connection. That's actually all I want to say now for the moment. Darina, Brian, Rosen, thank you very much for the invitation. I'm really excited to be here and to discuss the CleanTech opportunities with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vitaly. Now would be a good time if you have questions towards Vitaly to ask.
I guess I have one question for you, Vitaly. What specifically, where would you say your focus is and where your overall mission is coming through from your company and what you've seen?
Do you mean the current project, the AppTech startup, or the current projects in the App Lab store? If regarding the Langley, Langley actually is an AppTech startup, and it's an English learning platform for adults, and a significant part of our product is dedicated to the problems of the climate change and environment protection, and of course the CleanTech. So we will explain to our users all around the world the importance of that problems. And my personal opinion, probably I'm wrong, but my personal opinion that these problems are underestimated now for the moment in the modern society, and I personally think that we need to put more attention on that. And clean technologies are the most important area we need to think about in all the perspectives, investment perspective, development perspective. Probably it's one of the most sophisticated problems and one of the most technology consuming areas, but my personal opinion, it's the most important area for all of us.
Right.
Yeah, please, Brian, you go ahead.
Go ahead, Rosen. Yeah.
Yeah, because I met Vitaly in the ecosystem through a peer-to-peer mentorship opportunity in the Founder Institute. I was wondering throughout his journey as he shifted from entrepreneur to a investor and then a wider ecosystem supporter. What was the reason that you moved from one role to another? And because Eastern Europe has very many similarities, do you see CleanTech startups successful in this field, or do they need to move to a more developed high welfare market like Western Europe, Scandinavian countries, or even Canada to be successful?
You know, comparative to Canada, probably we're not so highly developed in that field, and especially now, what do I see now that almost all the Eastern European countries are now extremely vulnerable in this time when the classic, I mean the existing sources of energy are extremely expensive, and we need to think how to develop the new ways to get the energy, to have it clean, and to have it much more cheaper, because now we are an absolute dependence on the existing sources of energy, and it's really a bad situation here. Probably in Canada you don't see that, but we feel it really hard. So it's really important even for us. Regarding my journey from the entrepreneur to the ecosystem supporter, I personally understand that there should be a lot of people with more active position to move all the areas forward, to move the startup ecosystem forward, to move the EdTech forward, to move the CleanTech forward. We have several CleanTech projects here in Moldova, and this year we will support them financially as well, because we all understand that it's extremely important. So that's briefly.
Thank you, Vitaly. Just a quick question also from me to wrap up what you already mentioned to explain, considering the fact that you have been both so in the shoes of the entrepreneur and now the investor, and also considering that we are here representing both Canada and also Europe, Eastern Europe, can you specify the challenges that the early stage clean tech company experience? Mike already mentioned that we are talking about capital, the market, the customers. Do you have something particular from your experience and observation to add?
Yeah, of course. The capital is the most important challenge for our entrepreneurs, for our startups, because we have the access to technologies, but we experience the lack of financing. So we need probably we need more venture capital here in Moldova, especially, and in Eastern Europe. We need cheaper financial resources here, probably cheaper credits and long-term financial resources to develop, especially the clean technologies. Because everybody knows that the financial feedback from the clean tech is not about 3 or 5 years. It's a long way. It's like metaphor, yeah. So it's not a short-term business. And to develop such business, you need to have the long-term cheap resources. We do not have that for the moment, but we are working on that.
Thank you very much, Vitaly. I see also that the audience are very active in the chat pane, so we are noting the questions, and at the end of the discussion, we will come back also. Thank you once again, and now it is the time to introduce Ali Adil. He is a startup program manager representing Microsoft. He is working in the regions of Estonia and also Western Balkans. Ali, can you hear us? I think that there's probably...
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, there you are. Yes, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Perfect. But can you guys see me by any chance?
Yes, also we can
Sure,
see.
perfect. That's good. Hi, first of all, I want to introduce myself. My name is Ali. I am the startup program manager for Baltics and Balkans. And I recently joined Microsoft. As you can all know, that Microsoft is basically one of the main startup ecosystem player in terms of supporting all startups, whether we're talking about startups having just ideas to exit. So this is what the idea is right now with Microsoft for Startups, that we want to support all the startups, whether they are on level 1 or level 2, level 3 or level 4. So this is something which is new. It is come under the flag of Founders Hub program, where every startup is eligible to apply for the program. I will share my screen. Second. So let me know if you can see my screen.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. That's good. So as I said, that for Microsoft Startups, it is all about supporting all founders from idea to exit. And now the whole focus is towards helping the startups through the Founders Hub funnel, from getting them onboarding and giving them all access to the technology and helping them grow. So if we ask the question that why Microsoft Startups Founders Hub program, basically it gives you power to your own startup. Basically, you can build on your own terms. You don't need to, nobody can dictate what technologies you can and cannot use. Then at the same time, if you have managed to get your MVP ready, then you've got opportunities to access customers and capital. And then at the same time, you've got, like support from Microsoft regarding, let's say, credits or technical supports and mentorship. If we move forward, then uh, basically Founders of Program came into being. Previously, Microsoft for Startups program was different, where startup program managers had to recruit individually all the startups and find them and do the networking. But now the opportunity from the corp has come to give to every single startup that is willing to join, and we get them evaluated in a way that whether they are how successful they can be, and we try to help them. Now, if we mention that about the build on your own terms, depending on the criteria that you have, uh, Microsoft gives about up to 150,000 US dollar credit up to 4 years. So it is not like this that you have to be straight away productive within a year or so. Then at the same time, you are given a Visual Studio enterprise access. Then you've got GitHub enterprise access. Then you've got also Microsoft 365, Power Platform, and Dynamics 365. I think pretty much all the startups people know about it. Now, if we talk about navigate with personalized guidance, we, as I mentioned, we give technical advisory board. We gives regarding the cloud technology. Then we have got mentorship panel where you can book your time literally for tomorrow, day after tomorrow, with top mentors from US and all the Europe. Then we've got events, and then there is a 24/7 Azure support. Now, what I basically think, which is the best part for the Founders Program, is to be able to give the sales opportunities to almost 160 countries, 140 to 160 countries, for to be able to give them access to all the like sales opportunities towards the for them to expand. And once if the startup somehow gets co-sell ready, then they have the possibility, like it's unlimited possibility to expand. um, there are some guidelines that I would just mention literally, that you have to be engaged in a software-based product, and you must have a private. It should not be government, and it should not do anything to do with Bitcoin or crypto. Um, that is it from my side. But if you would have anything from questions from for me, you can ask me later, and I would love to answer them.
Thank you very much, Ali. Do we have
Thank you.
questions from the audience?
I had one specific question. Ali, what's been your experience in Microsoft in terms of supporting CleanTech startups? I know it's not on the what I call the hardware side, as those are doing that, but more in the software. But what's been your experience to date so far?
Well, basically, it is a very big initiative from Microsoft with CleanTech and sustainability, that we prefer, if there are startups working on those, there is the support is much more different for them compared to, because they would be given much more better sort of like priority joining the program. And there's a sort of like exclusivity for CleanTech and sustainability startups to help them, grow much more better, and help them to build their MVPs and so on. So it's a total whole sector that within Microsoft that is helping the clean tech startups, and also sustainability. So this is very serious things that we very much working on if you talk about startups.
Okay, thank you on that. And does Microsoft provide dedicated people, or is it more of like a offline approach, or is there dedicated teams of people that work with these startups? Mm-hmm.
Well, basically, there is depending on the regions, there is different like program managers. For example, for me, I have got Baltics and Balkans, and I deal with pretty much all of the startups. But as far as the CleanTech, we are very much thinking to be able to, advance the scope of the CleanTech startups. Let's say, for example, we want to partner up with E-Incubator and so on. So there is a clear message within the corp that we have to prioritize CleanTech and sustainability startups. But there is, if coming back to your question, yes, there is dedicated people regarding this, but to be honest, there is very less clean tech startups. If you would see, there is much more about fintech, retail, and these. But if there are, yes, they are given much more priority within the corp to be able to help them and prioritize them.
Great. Thank you for that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I have a question. Hello, Ali. Probably I missed this point, but what is the cost of using these services, or what startup does to have to?
There is no cost. This is basically free of joining the program, and you just get, if anybody can apply through LinkedIn with answering 3 basic questions, and then you can get selected depending on the evaluation from the corp, that whether you are eligible for that or not. Pretty much, if you are you have got some idea, you have got, I will share the link in the chat to apply, and it is very, very, very successful till now. And Langley also is one of the startups within the Founders Hub program. So there is a connection in a way. So there is no cost, nothing. The idea is to build partnership with the startups and help them grow, and help them with their MVPs, and then later on get them co-sell ready and give them access. So it's all about building partnership. So there is no cost.
Okay, so what is the main interests of Microsoft in participating in this program and giving to startups all of these services, mostly for free?
Well, first of all, the thing is, this is about supporting the startup ecosystem, because startups are changing pretty much the whole innovation all over the world. And at the same time, you are given certain amounts of credits. And of course, when you will grow, you will outgrow those credits and then move to the paid credits. So that is something that is, so in the beginning, the startups don't have to spend their money, their resources on buying credits and using technologies and these. So Microsoft is giving the access to those technology to pretty much everyone and those credits. And once you grow and develop your MVP, then you will move and graduate it from the program to become like more of a customer to Microsoft. I think that is the bigger picture here. So building a partnership to in both ways.
Thank you.
I hope it's clear.
Yeah, thank you very much. Sorry, Andre, you wanted to continue, I assume.
No, it's pretty clear.
Maybe one final question from me, if it's possible, but I see also that we have a person from the audience, John Barlow, who wants to take the floor. So if it's okay, John, please.
I've got a little, I don't know, I guess, hang up on the fact that you're asking, or you're telling us that Microsoft would offer 150,000 over 4 years. I mean, it's kind of, I look at it as to repay in 4 years. That's kind of steep. I mean, I don't have any that cash as a startup, and I've been trying to get funding. 150 would be great, but to pay back in 4 years is kind of,
no.
I better
think
not say it, but
there is a miscommunication. 150,000 is the Azure credit, which is given in time of 4 years that you can use. Now, that is not for every startup that is being evaluated. So it says up to 150,000. So depending on which stage of let's say whether you have an idea stage, whether you have got MVP stage, whether you have got already your product, you've got traction, you've got some sort of, let's say, already, some kind of funding. So depending on that, you can get up to $150,000 Azure credit. That is not funding, just to be clear, and that which you can use in 4 years of time. You don't have to pay back that. So the conditions is basically, I can give you more details if you would. You can add me on LinkedIn and I can give you much more details, but it is not funding. It is not guaranteed to every startup. It is up to, and at the same time, it is depend whether you get selected as the Founders Hub program startup, and then you will be assigned certain credit depending on your level, and then you have a time of 4 years where you can use that credit, and that. So but you don't have to pay back that credit. This is because you will be using Azure technology, the cloud servers and so on, and building a product so that you will use up to that kind of, so for example, level 1 would get certain amount, level 2 get with certain, then level 3, level 4, and like this. So different startups, depending on which stage they are, they get those kind of credits, and then they are used, and then, so I hope it is much more clear now.
Somewhat. Thank you. Mahalo. Bye.
Thank you very much, Ali. Brian, can you take from here?
Sure, thanks, Serena. Oh.
No. I just wanted from my side to confirm everything what Ali said, that we had absolutely a brilliant experience collaborating with the Microsoft. So guys, thank you for your continued support. Thank you.
Thanks, Vitaly. Like to bring up Lynn Cote next. She is the national lead for the CleanTech ecosystems and market intelligence as part of the CleanTech team with Export Development Canada. I see there's been a lot of conversation in the chat in terms of export opportunities and how's that supported. And Lynn will give a really great picture on how we're doing that here in Canada. So Lynn, welcome to come up, and I will start sharing your slides.
Yeah, it would be good if you can do them, because I did tell Brian I'm having some connection issues, so hopefully I won't get kicked out while we're doing this. So thank you for merci beaucoup d'être là ce matin. So yeah, if you can go to the next slide. So I saw lots of chat about EDC and the lots of comments. So yeah, we are Canada's official export credit agency. In Europe, you'll be familiar. Many of countries have your own export credit agency. So in Canada, we would call it a crown corporation, wholly owned by the government of Canada. In Canada, what a crown corporation means is that it's not a government department. We operate on purely commercial principles. However, we have one shareholder, which is the government of Canada, and we carry the government of Canada's credit rating, which of course is advantageous to us and to Canadian exporters. But in some ways, you can think of us as a bank and insurance company for exporters that is ultimately guaranteed by the government of Canada. We've been around for a long time, since 1944, and initially it was post-war credit insurance, and in the 60s we started doing sovereign loans. Much of our book of business right now is all commercial loans across a bunch of sectors. So if you can go to the next slide, which is just a pretty picture, you can move on. So our solutions sort of break down into 4 categories, 2 of them being financial and 2 of them being more on the knowledge side. So we have a number of lending tools, both on the debt and equity, and I would say structured and project finance, so specialized lending that we can provide depending on the needs of the Canadian exporters. And all of these are available to clean tech companies, and I can tell you that we are in the same sense that Microsoft is sort of very committed to clean tech. So are we. I'll talk a little bit more about that, but everything here is available. We have insurance products that are very much on the credit insurance side that allow Canadian exporters to sell their goods and services and make sure they get paid. We also can guarantee performance bonds that are issued by banks. So very much used tools, the performance bond for Canadian clean tech companies who are starting out and don't have a long track record of their technology performing. We also, through the website, have a bunch of knowledge tools that we offer to Canadian exporters, everything from our view on different countries across the world and how, our readiness to engage in business, to, sort of how-tos and webinars on every subject that you can imagine. And I think, as someone put into the chat, we also do connections between Canadian and international companies. We do provide loans to international companies who engage to purchase from Canada. Those are very, very specific, uh, and we are very, again, committed to doing much more in the clean tech space. And frankly, as companies all over the planet start to develop their decarbonization strategies, we're hoping that the Canadian exporters will get a good piece of that business. Brian, if you can go to the next slide. So it's a priority for us. While we've been serving, clean tech companies for many years, we made it if you want, an official priority in 2012. And since then, we've become one of the leading financiers of clean tech companies in Canada. So across all our financial solutions, we did it back then, which seems like we're in our 11th year, and it doesn't seem, but for those of you who recall, who've been in this for a long time, 11 years ago, the dialogue around clean tech and around climate change was very, very different. In fact, it was in some cases almost non-existent. So there were experts and scientists sort of screaming in the wind, but nobody was listening. So fast forward to 2012, where it's sort of, I'll call it a clear and present danger, to quote from Tom Clancy. So it's all around us now. And I think everybody is much more aware, and even people who this is not their job to be aware understand it's in the media. Certainly in Canada, there's some type of story on a daily basis, and unfortunately in Canada, some of our citizens have felt the effects of it, as Brian mentioned. Out west especially has been, and we've had lots of flooding, fires, and snow in places where they never get that much snow. So, and it has very detrimental impacts to the economy. In 2020, and I can't give you our 2021 numbers yet because they're not finalized, but I can tell you they're bigger. We facilitated business around 4.5 billion, 288 companies. The number for last year is quite a bit over 300 companies, and over 4.5 billion. But again, we're just finalizing those up. So we've done quite a bit of support. Most of that support is to small, medium-sized companies, and mostly on the small size. But we do have some larger companies, as I was talking about before, independent power producers who are going out and building large projects. So, and those are big dollars. So, but every dollar for us is important, and it's serving the different needs that exist across the Canadian ecosystem. But I would say close to 90% of the companies that we serve are small, startup mode, early commercialization. But we've been lucky to see some of them really, really do well. We'll get to that in a couple of minutes. If we look at the subsectors where we're doing the most business, And it actually correlates to the number of companies as well as the renewable power generation. There are a lot of companies in that subsector, and of course the dollars are quite big. Recycling, recovery, remediation. We also have quite a number of companies in that subsector. Energy efficiency, green build. We're seeing that's a sector where we're seeing a lot of new technology and a lot of automation, sensor driven, AI, very, very cool stuff. Agriculture, very much a growing segment for us. Again, Canada being a resource-based economy, we have a lot of agricultural infrastructure and universities, research. So we're seeing a lot of very interesting companies there. And finally, extractive processes and products, which would be no surprise, again, given our resource economy. So lots of folks working on technologies to decarbonize that sector. Brian, if you can go. So we have a bunch of clean tech partners. I won't go into it to say certainly Mikey is and Brian Watson, who's on the call, very important partners. So we work with industry, government, venture funds, and a bunch of industry programs. I mean, at EDC, we are an investor into funds, and we're also direct investor in companies. So we're pretty active in the clean tech VC ecosystem. Brian, if you can go. So how do we support? So we do, like I said, all the products are available to companies, but what we're seeing is the profile of those early stage companies tends to be similar. Companies when their first customers with us often will be early commercialization of their products or services, first sales, first contract, so they don't have a long track record. Often they may have been grant funded through a number of agencies and are really at the point of taking off. Companies need capital to grow that business. So if things are going well for them, which we're seeing increasingly, then they need either some type of equity or patient capital because they need to retain. They basically need to not pay us back for a little while so they can take that money and do what they need to do. Another thing that we're really seeing, and it increasingly so in the COVID times, is having the money to attract the right talent. There is a fierce competition for engineering, sales talent, CFO talent, CEO talent in Canada in the ecosystem, and never more so than the last year. We provide bonding support. So basically, we guarantee performance bonds that are put out by financial institutions. And we see this a lot. The market might like a new technology because of the benefits that it brings, but they may be concerned about the company's ability to actually perform on a contract and what happens if they don't. So often they will ask for performance bonds, and we see that's very frequent. What we see also is having done it in one market does not mean that you go into another market and people will say, oh, you did five of these builds in Canada, you're good, and I'll use Estonia. Different markets tend to say, well, I want to know how you're going to do it here because the conditions are different. So those bonds are not, they tend not to be a one and done. Also, selling into certain industries requires the buyer to have a bond. That's how they mitigate their own risk of the build of whatever it is that is being put together. Again, what I talked about before, providing repayment security when companies, we say here small, but it could be any size companies go into to markets. Often that insurance that we provide against non-payment is used by banks, the financial institutions as collateral for any type of loan that they provide to companies. Brian? So I'm going to do a big quick clean tech in Canada. Mikey's done a lot of it, so I'll skip over, but I guess the good thing is the numbers are the same. They all come from the same place. So maybe what I'll sort of focus on is, most of the exports that we're seeing, not only at EDC, but in the if you look at sort of broadly, are going to the U.S. and that's no different than pretty much any sector we look at. I mean, they're right there. They're very close. The market is huge, and certainly we're seeing, even if you break it down by state, we're seeing that the exports are also going to the states that have the most advanced regulatory environments. So it'll be no surprise that we do a brisk business in California and New York. So we're also seeing the type of companies that are sort of growing in the ecosystem are very much related to the strengths, the sort of historical, if you want, strengths that Canada has as a resource-intensive economy. And again, that's not a surprise either. Brian, if you can go to the next slide. So what are our strengths? So Mike already said we're very proud that the CleanTech Group event is actually happening this week. We're normally there, but with COVID, travel is a bit of an issue. So we're not there, but 13 Canadian companies on a worldwide list of 100 is pretty impressive. And we've had, every year we've had 12, 11, and we're always sort of 10%, which is quite significant given the size of our population. Um, we've been consistently identified as an attractive location to do business, specifically startups, specifically clean tech. There is a very rich ecosystem supporting Canadian clean tech companies across the country. Um, there's a lot of funding as well at the government level, and I'll get into the private after. We have an agency called SDTC, which is a very, very important agency that they provide grant funding to companies for projects that are really getting them to like the last mile, if you want, of commercialization. There are more recent funds like the Net Zero Accelerator and low carbon fuel funds that are providing capital for projects from the government. And both those funds they're managed by two different government departments, but are really focused on decarbonization. The Canadian government ecosystem is very, very, very focused on decarbonization through many vehicles. So and specifically industrial decarbonization. So there is at the moment a significant amount of funding available. And of course, EDC and our sister Crown, who has a focus on SMEs and who has a great clean tech practice. We provide financial solutions for companies starting at early commercialization, which includes equity investments, either direct or through funds. There are a lot of venture capital funds in Canada specializing in clean tech. Again, you have to take that in context of the population size, but there are more today than there ever were, and they have more funds. They've been a lot of the venture capital funds is coming from a mix of government participation and also private sector participation. There's a lot of money right now for clean tech in general. There's a lot of money for a few sectors. I would say EV is hot, hot, hot. Ag is also very hot. And when I talk about ag, it's both sort of solutions, sensor-based solutions, but also the alternative protein landscape, which is attracting a lot of money. That the money is not there for every sector. There are things that people are less interested in. So the themes are very much are decarbonization. So if you've got a good decarbonization story, you're going to be that much more of interest than other sectors. And then we have an amazing trade commissioner service who has over 100 people who are dedicated to clean tech in different markets. The lead person for Europe is based in Berlin. His name is Peter Bauer. He's amazing. He's a great resource Canadians and frankly for foreign companies who are looking to work with Canadians. Brian, if you can. We do have challenges though, and I wasn't sure whether I should put this in, but I thought it, we can't just talk about the good things. I mean, and I would probably guess that these challenges are no different, depending on the country, because they're really the challenge of SMEs. I mean, the sector in Canada is mostly small and medium-sized enterprises, and mostly on the small, and they, some of them at the beginning have a hard time, with market acceptance, building a team, attracting funds, becoming cash flow positive. A lot of them struggle with, you know, becoming a company, moving from an R&D project-based company to becoming a real company where you have to manage a whole bunch of other things. And what we see often, especially when there is venture capital money there is an encouragement to build out a different type of team. Sometimes people move into different roles that are more technical, and you know, the money will bring in professional management, and we're seeing that more and more, and we're seeing that being done more and more in a very positive way, positive and constructive, and that is really a big challenge for companies is having that skill set and frankly the desire to become a company, and understanding all the new things that you have to manage. Certainly COVID has made things challenging, when companies can't go travel internationally to go to shows, and do their regular methods that they would use to sell. So a lot of companies have actually focused within the country. But being a small country, we run out of runway pretty quick. So most of the clean tech companies in Canada are very much, they're born exporters because the market really is, not big enough in Canada. There's tremendous opportunities outside of Canada. One of the things that we've seen in Canada is companies, their ability to manage their IP and the speed to market. We are a little bit slower, according to a study that we commissioned a few years ago, compared to others. People are waiting for the perfection, but most of the time, it's a managerial issue of not having the right team in place, or not being ready, or not being able to sort of attract the right talent to bring it to the next step. So we're seeing amazing IP that's not necessarily being deployed optimally. Next slide. So what we're seeing, the trends and opportunities that we're seeing, I should probably move number 3, decarbonization, and it probably should be 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 is decarbonization. That is, in French, we say le mot d'ordre. It is the word. It is, I've baptized it the word for 2022, because if I had a dollar for every time it was said in my presence, I would have a few dollars at this point. And it's all about decarbonization right now. Certainly, supply chains are a big issue. I think they're an issue for all of us. The circular economy, the drive to reduce harmful waste and emissions, and the Canada, we don't have a ton of people, but where we do have them, we're in very dense areas. So we're seeing a lot of people thinking about urbanization, mobility, smart infrastructure, public safety. We're seeing some very cool companies. And then the last one is more or less, it's a trend that the CleanTech groups identified, more or less a CleanTech one. But there are clean tech applications as sort of voyons, I can't say it in English. Anyways, you can read it. And automation of work life in general and the impact. And I saw a thing in the chat, $1 for decarbonization. It's $1 for every time I heard the word. But if it was $1 for decarbonization, I could fix it all right today, unfortunately. Here are some links, including the one that I put in the chat for the economics report. We have quite a bit of information online on what EDC is doing, but also on our view of clean tech, both in Canada and across the world. So that's it for me.
Thank you very much, Lynn. That was really an awesome overview of everything we're at. In the interest of keeping it moving on right now, what I'm going to do is turn it over showcasing the two companies that we have, and then I'll open it up for more questions on a broader level, as I think you covered quite a bit, and give people a chance to digest some of that, and then jump into some more questions, unless somebody's got something burning right now that they wanted to tackle. But if not, I'd like to bring up Olubenga to the floor. He is the CEO and founder of Ready Inc. Ready is really transforming how renewable energy is distributed and a different way and approach. So Ol, if you'd like to come forward while I bring your slides up. And also for everyone, when I share the when we share out the recording of this event, I'll make sure you get all those links that Lynn had in her presentation.
Do you want to share? Thanks for that, Brian. Do you want me to share my slide from here?
Sure, go ahead. Yeah,
that'll be cool. Okay. Just give me a second. Can you guys see my screen now?
Not yet.
Just 1 second. Yeah, can you see it now? Can you see my screen?
It's starting to come up.
Second.
There we go.
It's nice being here again. Brian, thank you so much for all the support, and good day everyone. My name is Olubenga Olubanjo. You can call me Olu for short, and I'm the CEO of Ready. At Ready, we make very portable and grid-like electricity. We provide portable and grid-like electricity for households and businesses operating in the energy poor regions of the world. So I'm going to use this presentation to take you through more of the inspiration of the business, where we are now as a company and where we are going, and how we are approaching innovation as a company. A little bit of background. I'm from Nigeria originally. Before coming down to Toronto, I spent the first 24 years of my life in Nigeria struggling with reliable electricity as a kid. And this experience gave me firsthand the impact of lack of access to electricity to people's productivity and their livelihood. Just like myself, some years ago, more than 1 billion people globally live without access to electricity as we speak. Sadly, 600 million of these individuals are Africans. In Nigeria, which is where I grew up, there's over 70 million people without. It's a 200 million population country. There's over 70 million Nigerians currently, I would speak, living without access to electricity. 80 million of these individuals, they are under 80 million that are connected to the grid, but they struggle with reliable electricity. That means these 80 million have less than 4 hours of electricity every day. And a report by the Nigerian Economic Summit reveals that Nigerians spend more than $14 billion annually on poor polluted electricity. Solving this very critical foundational challenge is why we founded Ready. And our mission is to innovatively provide clean, reliable, and affordable electricity to households and businesses operating in the energy poor regions of the world. We did this. It's a project that started in 2017/2018 when I was in the University of Toronto, and we did a survey that included over 200 plus Nigerians in a bit to understand why they don't adopt some of the existing solutions. And what we observe is that people need systems that are very, very affordable, especially in that part of the world. People need systems that is flexible, that has both AC and DC power. People need systems that are portable. People need systems with long power time. And need systems that are very, very simple to operate. And this was what influenced development of the Ready capsule. The Ready capsule has it's a 200 watt hour system. It's used for energy storage and delivery. We have the Ready Energy Crate, which is used to move the capsule around, and we have the Ready Energy Station where the capsules are charged. So I'm going to walk you through how all these systems connect together. Also, before I go to that, we also use our proprietary software Tempo to run all the rental of the capsule. Again, and when I explain how this can connect, you're going to see how the software and the hardware seamlessly connect together. So this is the way the system works. So the Ready capsules are charged at Ready Energy Station, which are strategically located in our operating communities. We have Ready ambassadors who are local mom and pop shops, all these corner stores. They collect the capsules from our charge station for rentals through with the crates, and the customers go to these individuals to rent the capsules for a daily rental fee. And this whole process is managed through their mobile devices. Right now, we are running some of these processes also through our proprietary software. So this the model we created allows customers to effectively access clean and affordable electricity everywhere and anytime. And we generate revenue through the daily rental fee that customers pay. The customers pay 50 cents per day to rent the capsule. We also generate, we also have some direct sales of the capsule as well. We also explore like cross-selling activities through Tempon and also like sales of energy efficient devices as well. A 200 watt-hour capsule could power for 7 hours to LED light, could fully charge 3 phones, and could at the same time for 4 hours power a fan, a TV, or a laptop. But the capsule is also designed to be combinable for high energy operation. What that means is that you can stack the capsule together if you need more energy, and this allows it to be useful for like much more advanced energy operation. And one of the unique features of the capsule is the fact that it's wireless communicate with the cloud, and this allows us to like monitor the battery level information. It allows us to like monitor, get customer information, and monitor how the capsule is being used per time. One of the uniqueness of our system is it's a proprietary solution. We filed a provisional US patent for the capsule in 2019. It's also very affordable compared to other systems. It's very mobile, it's easy to use, and it's modular. When compared to the existing system that exists currently in the market in Nigeria right now, especially on the rental space, our system comes with a least usage cost, and so that allows for like a very speedy adoption by a lot of the locals. Customers pay zero upfront payments to like use the capsule. The system is very mobile, and the customers are not subjected by any contractual agreements when they use the ready capsule. And it's also environmentally friendly and has the lifespan of over 4 years. So again, like I said, Ready started when I moved from Nigeria to when I moved from Lagos to Toronto in 2017, and see my productivity increase with access to 24/7 electricity in Toronto. And I was trying to replicate that in the most affordable way to some of the people in Nigeria. And over the years, we've built and tested the capsule. We've run a microscale pilot. Right now, as we speak, this month alone, the capsule has served over 1,000 houses and businesses. And we're trying to scale. Our goal is to scale that to up to 10,000 before the end of the year. And those includes Olabi, who is a barber in Lagos that adopted Ready Capsule and now saves over 30% of his energy expenses when he adopted Ready Capsule, as well as Mayowa, a tailor in Lagos that now have access to 24/7 electricity when she adopted the Ready Capsule. Our innovation OBO comes with a huge social benefit. Its impact goal, SDG goal 7, 8, 9, and 13 of Sustainable Development Goal. And this has allowed, with this, we've been globally recognized for our innovation, winning prestigious awards from global organizations. Recently, we were named one of the 100 best invention of the world by Time magazine, and we're last year we also were one of the finalists of the global Prince William's Artshot Prize. And we've also won awards from World Energy Council, as American Society of Mechanical Engineers, Cisco, RBC, MIT, and some other prestigious ventures. And this is possible because of our growing team of amazing individuals who are very determined to see our energy, to see this innovation scale for massive impact. And we are continuously building the team to be able to create more value as things evolve. And we also have like advisors who are also helping us, including people the BlackTech Capital. And what our plan over the years is to scale. We started this innovation from the small dispatchable system that we offer with Ready Capsule, which is a tiny the capsules that we offer. But at the same time, our goal is to explore much more advanced system, leveraging on some of the software and hardware capabilities that we built. And that's like if you look at the Nigerian, the African market and some of the energy regions of the world, there's more scooters and electric tricycles, even more than some cars. So our goal is we are exploring how we can use the Ready Capsules to also like power some of these systems as the company evolve, leveraging on all the lessons we learned from the present our dispatchable model. And our goal is to capture over 70% of the Nigerian market by the end of 2025. Like I said as well, as a company, we're also very research focused. So last year we published 3 research papers about like what we are doing, and that is because of the kind of way we kind of approach innovation. We are very research focused. We're not just research focused, but we're also like very we connect both what we do, connect both what we get in the market to like very solid research, giving a couple of like research background of some of our founders. And we want you guys to be part of our innovation journey. And as BlackTech Capital is helping us as well. And we are as we take on the challenge to change the global energy narrative in Africa and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Olu. That was great. As I said, we'll go on to the final presentation here from Manelli Clements, who is the CEO and founder of Lorcan Technologies, and then we'll open up the floor to questions for all our different speakers and panelists that we had here. So Manelli, if you want to come up.
Sure. Hi, everyone. Just gonna present and let me know when you can see it, Brian. It's good?
Yep, you can see your screen.
Okay, perfect. So I'm the CEO and founder of Lorcan Technologies, and at Lorcan Technologies, what we've done is created a universal data transmitter for environmental monitoring sensors placed in remote areas. So we started because of this one statement from Gillian Campbell, a UN lead statistician, that says that there's a lack of data to actually assess against the SDG indicators. And my background's in telecommunications. I worked with a lot of agencies to do remote deployments for oil and gas mining and forestry. But those are really expensive deployments, and a lot of environmental agencies can't afford a system that would be customized for remote area deployment. So working with our team of conservation and telecommunications experts, we started diving into where these remote area sensors are placed and found that it's extremely risky, time-consuming, and costly for these agencies to go and gather data on a regular basis to get what they need to make key decisions that would help mitigate the risks of climate change. So we created this, the data transmission unit, that universally attaches to any environmental sensor, extracts and transmits the data so agencies can receive it automatically when they need it, creating or closing that gap in the access to data for environmental monitoring. So how we've really been able to develop this is through partnerships, and Europe specifically has been really key for us. The CleanTech initiatives coming from Europe have always kind of been inspirational, and there's always been mandates from the EU countries to track achievements to help reduce the risks. So it's no wonder that really Canada partnered to make sure that they can also effectively offer these incentives to companies to innovate in the clean tech sector. But really only 8% of businesses in Canada are aware of the network and funding opportunities available for them. For us, our partnerships with trusted European partners such as Schneider Electric, which is a global leader for green tech development, has not only helped us to refine our product features, but also provided us with access to customer networks that allow us for faster in-market deployment. And then as we grow, we've actually been really fortunate to partner with the French Chamber Canada Commerce Ontario. They've been great in helping us get our message out into global markets and providing us further networking opportunities with customers, and also export facilities coming out of Europe. We work with Agnet, which is a sustainable European-based data chip provider A lot of our product, because we're placing it in remote environments, we want to make sure that there's no degradation to the device. So when we're testing, which we're launching our tests in like the remote Yukon, there's animal and wildlife that we have to consider. So we want to make sure that our product's not going to chip off. So manufacturers like Avnet have really helped us to get these components that they verify are sustainably sourced and will be durable. And then Can Export, we will be reaching out to global markets coming up in the next couple of years as we deploy our products in Australia and a couple of other contracts that we're working on. And really the Can Export grants that are available to us in innovation and funding, and also the resources available to help us really understand what we need to do as a startup, are really valuable right now for a company like ours to grow and scale up into different markets. So that's really been our experience, getting our device into these spaces and the networks that we were able to really leverage to help grow our product. And so right now it's really important that we all kind of work together to get CleanTech solutions out globally. Like all the presenters have said, it's an emerging field. In Canada, what we found specifically, I think Lynn touched on it, is that sometimes people are hesitant to invest in CleanTech until you've proven it out, but really leveraging the networks that we had available to us between Canada and Europe has really helped us to get to that point. So if there's questions, happy to answer.
Thank you very much, Manili, and thank you very much to all our speakers, to Rosen, to Micah, to Vitali, to Ali, Lynn, and to also you, Manili, and Olu. Just really giving that good picture and overview and landscape of the Canadian CleanTech landscape, what's there, what's available, how we're partnering and working with people all across the world, how we're partnering and working with Europe. And let's open the floor to any questions you may have of any of us, and also we'll take it from there. So if anyone wants to unmute, ask a question, put up your hand, happy to take your questions.
I'm curious about Manili in terms of the battery life, because you're going remote, so you're gonna have to have your own power there. So how do you solve that problem?
Yeah, so we're working with a company right now up in the Yukon. So we're based in Waterloo, but a lot of our collaboration is with Yukon University as well. They have battery solutions that they're using in their devices that are lasting for quite a while. Again, our solution is specifically for low bandwidth use, so battery consumption and power consumption is not going to be that much. The data that's coming out of environmental sensors is very small data sets. Really using the knowledge of the partners that have already been in that space for 14 years now with their sensors and power is super important for us. So
yeah, because I imagine you drop them there and you leave them there kind of thing.
Yeah, we drop them, we monitor, we create a network so that environmental data we know when our sensors are working and transmitting, and it's two-way, so we can send and transmit back to the devices as well.
Okay, yeah, good to hear. There's a presentation yesterday at Maple Leaf Angels about a company doing sensors. So I'm curious to see how because it sounds like you don't do the sensors, but you provide a way for the sensor data to get from a remote.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, there's
it's
sensors
really
out there, and a lot of these projects have been running, especially in environmental monitoring, they've been running for decades. So what we didn't want to do is go in and create a sensor and say, uproot your entire project. We said, okay, well, we'll build a universal transmitter to connect to it, rather than you guys spending a lot more money on something else.
Awesome. Anybody else with any questions for any of our speakers or panelists?
I was also wondering about Olive Banga and the typical customer persona that they have. I saw that there was a tailor, a barber, but what other kinds of people would be using this?
Yeah, thanks for that question, Rose. It's actually, again, like I said, our model is evolving very fast. We are seeing a lot of actually we are seeing a lot of corporates doing that. We've done 2 corporate sales this year alone, which is like corporates buying like 20 units of the capsules right away. We are seeing that evolving right now quickly in Lagos, and we're kind of like adapting that. So we see small our core target, like I said, our core target has been targeting some of the small businesses like barbers, tailors, and some of the people at the base of the pyramid. But we observe that the way the Nigerian community and most African communities is structured, these guys are very mixed together with some of the people working remotely now. So there's a lot of companies adopting solutions for like some of their remote staff that are working remotely. So it's getting more interesting as the model evolves. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question. Thank you.
Then I see you have a question.
Yeah, sure. For both entrepreneurs, do you have registered IP for your technology?
For us, we did a US patent for our tech, but we are still. I mean, I think for us, we have a version 2 now that we're also like kind of working on the IP for that on, because there's all like continuous developments on like the technology itself. But like I mean, I think for me, it's balancing between like speed of innovation to the market and spending all the time on IP, given the fact that there's a lot of like, I observed that, especially for me in hardware, when we started, we went first into like closing on IP, but we observed that a lot of things are changing very fast. So we are kind of trying to make sure we adapt also as quickly as possible, as kind of integrate those adaptation into like some of our new technologies. So yeah, it's something that we would love to like possibly speed up that process from our own end as a company. But like it can also be very expensive and slow process, and that's why we just like focus on like speeding up like scale of innovation, the speed of innovation itself.
I mean, I love that answer, because I mean, it's one of the things very much that you brought up, Lynn, that Canadian companies spend a long time on the IP and getting it, protecting it and getting it right, and then don't deploy to market, you know. And I know one of the things we were helping Olo with Ready, and, you know, they were looking, and, you know, they deployed the capsule, but they were a little bit, you know, trying to get the software right. And then we were encouraging them and got them to deploy it. I think it was in October last year, and that made a huge difference quickly. So you're right, you know, what you're answering, Ola, and speaking to what you brought up, Lynn, there's this balancing act between protecting the IP and getting out there and getting the market and securing it. So and part of it in getting that IP early is what funding can you get to these companies to help them get the right people in place, so as founders they can focus on what they need to do and make sure that is also protected. I don't know if Manelli, you wanted to add in on that. I think you had about your IP.
So we're working on our provisional IP because we're actually deploying testing units with companies right now. So we want to ensure it's protected while we are getting, like, because for us personally, we need to get certification on the device from Industry Canada. And that's going to make it available too in the future for assessment. So we just want to make sure everything's protected before we go into those spaces.
Lynn, I had a question for you in terms of, you know, we know there's easier funding for those larger companies, but on the smaller scale, what are you seeing in terms of government support coming in? Because there are some cases where the government's saying, yes, we're willing to support you, but you need that private equity first before the government sometimes comes in. You know, I've seen that more, I guess, a little bit from the BDC side, and I'm not knocking them because I think BDC is great. But what's sort of EDC doing, and, you know, helping these companies at an early stage, and sort of that balancing act between government funding and private equity funding?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, EDC, by its nature of being a bank, an insurance company, we're not an early stage funder. So even in our equity, we're going to announce our new equity matching program, and there's a requirement for revenue. That being said, there's a lot of other funders. So we get companies that one really good place to start for earlier stage companies is with NRC IRAP. So they've got great programs to hire people, and many of our successful companies have gone through that. The other place, which I talked about, which is really important, is SCTC. Having gone through SCTC is like a badge of honor. They don't, give the money away. I mean, it's grant money. It's not repayable, but like you got to work for it. You got to show the environmental benefits, the benefits that companies get both at a technology and at a, I think, company development. We can see it. There are a number also, and SCTC has a new seed funding program, which provides, I think it's up to $100,000, and the companies are being sort of presented to them from the ecosystem. So, for example, Mars could, from incubators, Mars could sort of put you forward. And what they're looking for is pretty high level, because there's not an incredible amount of due diligence, but it's basically, do we think there might be environmental benefits here? So I would, I'll put an email together to Brian, and he can share that out. So I think that would certainly be worth looking into. When you get to EDC, it's because you're about to have a sale, or as a debt provider, you can't provide debt to folks who don't have a way to repay it. That's sort of 101. Equity, our specialty is not as an early equity funder. Our team is really very good at it doesn't growth equity. We're definitely very good at. In CleanTech, we go frankly earlier than we do, and we do have a matching program. But again, there is a revenue requirement, because we're best. We don't have a huge equity team. It's getting bigger, but it's not huge, and we have to sort of focus on what we do best, and where we have connections. So the other thing that I would suggest is you go through the Clean Growth Hub, which is a Canadian government sort of one-stop shop for all the federal funding programs. They are brilliant. So you can go online. I'll put it in I'll put it in the same email to Brian. You could have a meeting, and they'll point you in different directions, because depending on your product, there are some very specific government programs for certain products. They're the best place to go to try to figure out what's available. For us, by the time you go through those, you get to us, it's because you have customers, you have sales that you want to protect, you have revenue, you may need some growth revenue. But there's lots available out there, and it's every larger company started small. So while the decarbonization is the word of the day, there's still lots of funding, lots available for earlier stage companies. I would say that obviously there's angels, there's sort of seed investors like Brian's fund. So and there are more of them, and every decision that I would say with money, you have to look at what are the pros and cons. What is that money giving you? And as much as you want to get the smartest money possible. So you want to get that money that's going to not only give you the money, but give you other stuff. So, and I think that's where the incubators and folks like Brian can help you sort of do a scope. Okay, what are my gaps? What are the technical gaps, the people gaps, the knowledge gap, the market gaps I need to fill? Who's best positioned to do that? So, like I said, there's all kinds of free information, knowledge out there to access, but you have to be clear also about what you're willing to give up for certain money. And when you start to get towards certain types of money, you're going to have to be clear and be okay with what you're giving up. Are you getting what you need, compared to what you're giving up? And also the other thing that I would say is people have to be very realistic, present really good pitch decks. that are not all technology focused, but be very realistic about the value of their company and where they're at. But what I heard in both cases is that there's sales happening, there's prototypes in market, which is and some very good partnerships, which is amazing.
Sure.
So I think build on those, but go to the Clean Growth Hub and they will direct you, and they're really good at it.
Thanks very much, Lynn. I mean, and I will say, for where we're supporting the companies at BlackTech Capital, we're an early investor at the pre-seed stage. Yet, because a lot of our founders, for various reasons, have been potentially overlooked from a funding perspective, we're finding the companies we're looking at are more advanced than what you would see at the pre-seed. They've gone beyond the MVP, like both companies we presented today and Aquafort that we presented back on the 12th. They've already got customers, they're gaining traction, they're starting into that growth. So so I'll put it out there to investors, a very great opportunity with the companies we're looking at. Any other questions for any of our speakers or panelists that anyone would have? Darina, if you wanted to come back in and anything you may want to say. Mm-hmm.
Well, actually, I had a question towards Lynn, because thank you for your presentation. On 2 slides, I saw that agriculture is one of the subsectors with a growing potential. You mentioned this. May you say some example, a good example of a successful business in this sector?
Yeah, sure. A really good example is a company based out of BC called Semios Bios. So they have a technology that I won't try to describe it super well, but I'll put it in the way that I can explain it, because I'm not the PhD who developed it. But basically, they're tricking insects into different behavioral patterns, which means that farmers who use the product get better crops. They can reduce the amount of pesticides, especially pesticides, but fertilizers as well, but mostly pesticides, insecticides, because of this sort of hormonal tricking, if you want. They've done really well. Last year they raised, it's either 125 or 250 million dollars. So they've done really well. Other companies in the alternative protein space. So we're seeing, so Semios Bios is a really good example of the technology piece, and then or I would say like a hardware software combination. Alternative proteins, we have a company, and there's many. So we're seeing crickets, we're seeing canola, peas turned into proteins. So we financed one which is public, a company called Merit Functional Food, which is taking peas and transforming it into a high quality protein. And there's lots of technology involved in that. So we're seeing, so those are 2 really good examples of sort of the both sides of the ag, the sort of tech, hardware, software, and then the sort of production of food using very different inputs. Those companies are doing well. There's a lot of, even though it doesn't make everybody happy, but there's a lot of cricket projects in Canada that we're seeing. Most of them are pretty early stage, though. Some of them are moving a little bit faster, where companies have figured out technologies to grow crickets in a fairly small space, and they basically then pulverize the crickets and turn it into very high quality protein.
Thank you, Lynn. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lynn. I mean, and one of the other companies that we showcased last week or 2 weeks ago, and the 12th, was Aquafort. And while not say agriculture, but it's in the aquaculture, because they're all about sustainable foods. So their product helps fish farmers, which is again one of those industries where you question farming fish, but it works great as a land-based product. They have an AI platform that helps with predicting fish health and fish quality. So making sure that avoid some of those environmental impacts from fish farming and helping fish farmers. They're already deployed to over 100 small fish farmers, which it's a growing industry. And both those founders created it around creating sustainable food sources for people around the world. And they're deploying into various countries in Africa. They're a Canadian company out of Newfoundland. And they're also looking to deploy it to other places in Asia. So again, we're creating that reliable source of protein food. So another example towards your question, Darina, around in the sort of ag space. We've got about 5 minutes left. Any questions anyone may have? I know a number of people have had to go and drop off, but it's been great. I'd like to say thank you to my co-host Darina first, and thank you very much to all of our presenters, to Rosen, to Micah, to Lynn, to Vitali, to Ali, and to Olu and Manelli. Great. Love sharing the stage with all of you, showing what the opportunities are, showing what we can do here in Canada, and showing what we can do in partnership with Europe and the different opportunities that between the two countries. So if no one else has any questions, Darina, if you'd like to, any other parting words from you.
Well, lastly, just to say thank you to all the participants, the speakers. I think it was a fantastic opportunity to discuss what's in front of us, because CleanTech is both challenges, but great opportunities. Therefore, we have to go ahead and take them. So thank you very much. And thank you, Brian, for taking all the organization and the initiative to gather us here.
You're very welcome. And to everyone here today, we'll shortly within the next day or two, we'll make sure that a recording of this event is available. Lynn kindly offered to send me an email with some of those links. I'll make sure all the links that from hers and from other presentations are included in the email to everyone that signed up for this event, along with the recording for the event. So with that, thank you, everyone. Have a great day, great night, evening, wherever you may be in the world. I know we had someone calling in from Hawaii, so that was in the middle of the night there, but thank you again, everyone, and take care.
Early AM.
Early AM, there we go. Thanks, John.
Thank you. Bye-bye to all.